Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer bringing you the list that I'm bringing to the only game in town, which is in Somerville, New Jersey, on the 3rd of January of 2015. So my first actual games of the new year. There's a one-day tournament. It's local. I frequent it quite often. Anthony from the Sustainable Center is also going to be there. And I know if you've seen my video from a couple of months ago where I intended to build up a new dwarf army, with all these stuff, all these conversions that I was looking to do, and a whole bunch of stuff that was still in the boxes and still in the sprues. You might be wondering when you look at this, how in the world could you possibly have painted all this in all that time? And I will just say I didn't. I borrowed Anthony's army. He actually offered it to me before I cracked open any of those boxes, and I still haven't. I wanted to try out the army and just try to put my own little spin on it. I've watched a lot of videos for the dwarves on YouTube. I've seen a lot of people with their various theory hammer, including Anthony and a number of other people who play dwarves, and just seen a lot of analysis videos, even from Mr. Malorian when the book first came out. Just talk about a lot of how the dwarves work and what the various armies are, and I have a whole closet filled with stuff for the dwarves, but I figured let me play them before I start popping open the boxes and putting cutting plastic and doing conversions and starting to paint them. Let me get a feel for the army and see if I enjoy it. Anthony's got a great looking army. I faced this before on the battlefield. He's got just about everything you need to make just about any iteration of the army, as far as I could tell, and I figured, it would be great to try him out. When I said that, I might be considering taking dwarves to an upcoming tournament, he said, "Hey, I'm not taking the dwarves to the TOGIT one day. You feel free to use mine. Just send me a list, and I'll bring the stuff along." And that was great because usually I'm lugging along this massive box with a dolly, 5 tiers with hundreds and hundreds of models for undead legions. At the very least, even just vampire counts, there's just tons of stuff. But with Undead Legions, there's like 50% more stuff because I'm the summoning options and bigger units, whether you deploy them or you summon them or you expand them or you grow them or whatever. There's just a million different things with vampire counts, and I'm usually a sweaty mess at the end of the day from all the activity, and I'm usually the last person finished in games. And it was such a pleasure to, when I put this into a box to walk around from game table to game table, I could just carry it in one hand like I was delivering a beer to somebody. It was great. So it was just a nice, refreshing change. It was also nice to have a fully painted army on the battlefield. And this is my list. So I'm just going to go over it, and I know that I would love to hear people's feedback. Thinking about how I might be able to improve it. I'm not going to tell you how I performed in this. This is actually post the actual game day, but I will say that I had a really good time playing these guys. So the idea around this list is I wanted to bring some copters. I wanted to absolutely bring Iron Drakes. Now, in the lower right corner, you'll see that there are, it looks like a whole unit of Thunderers. I don't believe Anthony had painted up a solid unit of 20 of the Iron Drakes, and he had offered my Thunderers as a proxy, which nobody had any problem with. I made sure they understood that these were Iron Drakes. But I wanted an army built around Iron Drakes. I didn't want to have a massive unit, but I wanted to have a sizable unit because I've seen in some battle reports, people have very much been surprised when they actually get in and actually get into a fight, and when they shoot, they're pretty devastating. And although they're flaming, if you're dealing with any units that have defenses versus flaming, that could be a liability. The issue is, of course, that there's absolutely some serious power, and I love the idea of them. I love the look of them, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to field them, the specific models, but I'll make my own. So that's the cornerstone of the army that I want. I wanted to build around that idea, and I also wanted to build it around the special character Grim Burloxon, who just seems to be ready-made to sit in with this unit, and certainly nearby some war machines to help them out. Now, this tournament had one major comp. It was allowing everything from end times except for the cane magic, but in general, there has been back and forth at previous games on whether or not the special characters from End Times should be allowed. That specifically things like Nagash and Malekith and Karl Franz, Jesus, reborn, and there's just there's some contention about it because some people just feel like they're too overpowered, and not every army has access to them, and I understand that. I mean, I brought Nagash to the last tournament, and I walked through a lot of people and got a lot of stink eye. And while there was an option for people to bring, the Glocken and Karl Franz, Malekith wasn't there at the time. It definitely put things on a little bit of a different playing field. I mean, the game could have been completely different if I just got cannoned off turn one on any of those games, and there were opportunities for it. It just didn't happen. So when the suggestion came that they were not going to allow special characters for End Times, I had made the suggestion back to the organizer of the event, Joe Matarosa, and I said, look, why don't you just disallow all special characters? And his compromise, which I just felt was just appropriate. Things are a lot easier on the same level playing field when you don't have any special characters, because not all special characters are equal. And anybody who argues that is fooling themselves. Some special characters in some books are far better, point for point and power for power, than in other books. You can argue that all the books are unbalanced, but the fact is special characters are not equal. Some books have decent army lists, and the special characters can tremendously change that army list and make it much more competitive and much more brutal. So if you are going to neutralize the special characters from End Times, I said, hey, why don't we eliminate all of them? Just remove all of them, and let's get a little bit more pure, build your own generic characters, and have a little more of a tactical type of game. But that wasn't to happen. Apparently, Joe specifically likes to use Throg, and he didn't feel that he wanted to have the hero-level special characters removed, and I was fine with that because I felt that if you're going to remove all Lord special characters, that's going to take a lot of the crazy stuff out of the game, even non-End Times, just standard army books. So I thought that was a nice compromise, and I appreciated that, because it lowered the level of crazy and bullshit. And I decided that I wasn't initially going to take a special character, but being that I doing some research that Grim Burluxon really fits in with the Iron Drakes, I included him. So if you're not familiar with Grim Burluxon, he has. He's not a combat behemoth, so be very careful when you see that he has a strength 6 and he has this really nice axe that is not magical. But it does break magic weapons if you hit somebody, and I'm not sure if it's hit and do a wound. I don't remember, but on a 5-up, you'll destroy their magic weapon. But on top of that, he has a nice gun. But the real power of it is that he has this thing at the beginning of the phase on a 2+ that you have to declare which option you want to use, and it can enhance other units or war machines. And the first one, it's called the Master of Accuracy, and the first one is that he can make an artillery adjustment. So he can take a ballistic. They can use his ballistic skill, which is 5, and they can re-roll 1 artillery dice. So that's 1 war machine that's within. I think it's within 6 inches, I believe, and. I'm not sure. I don't remember if it's 6 or 3 inches. I think it's 6. In any case, that's pretty huge. If you want to apply that to, for instance, a organ gun, you can see organ gun now at ballistic skill 5 and re-rolling 1 artillery die. That's a massive benefit. The other one is, and this didn't come into play, was that you could take a unit of Quarrelers or Thunderers, and you can increase their maximum range by 2 dice 6. And that's phenomenal. I think that's a huge possibility to use with him. But I didn't use any crossbows or handguns, or Thunderers or Quarrelers. The one that I used quite a bit was that you could take models that in the unit that he's in, and they can re-roll to hit rolls, and he missed hit rolls. And then I thought that was really good for the Iron Drakes, because the Iron Drakes ballistic skill I think is just a 3. And the range is pretty low. It's only an 18-inch range. Now, we're talking about strength 5, armor piercing. So they're pretty much, unless they're standing and shoot. Now, they're quick to fire. This is a huge benefit. So they can even do a swift reform without any minuses. Or they could do a minor, they can't march move, but they could do a standard move. So there's a lot of things that they can do to readjust that kind of surprise opponents with where they won't get subtractions. They don't get any subtractions to their ballistic skill if you charge them and stand and fire, and they can always stand and fire because they're that quick to shoot. And so those are really nice benefits with him in the unit. The fact that they're going to get a lot of minuses like long range, skirmishing, cover modifiers, all that stuff at least is somewhat mitigated by the fact that they can make rerolls. So because you're typically going to be shooting with them at least in the 9 to 18 range category. So I wanted him in that group. I thought that really made that more effective, and it can be pretty devastating to have that strength 5 armor piercing shot just rake through units as they get a little too close. And the standard thing with a unit like this is that you want to put some runes of slowness, because people are going to inevitably want to charge them. So I put a double rune of slowness on this unit, and anybody who wants to charge them is going to have a bad day, because I'm going to roll 2 dice and take the highest one and subtract it from their total. So unless they're right up in my grill, I'm going to be able to stand and shoot, and by the time they get to me, they'll probably be pretty withered away, and I should be able to stand, to handle it. And I have the organ gun right next to him, so I have an option. If I don't have anything in range for Burloxen to enhance the Iron Drakes, I can use the other ability and enhance the organ gun to do its job, and that's just basically taking his ballistic skill and doing the reroll. Now I have the master engineer that's behind there, and he's kind of sitting out there. He can use the Lookout Sir with war machines, which is nice. I guess it doesn't really matter here at this point, because he could still get a Lookout Sir with the standard infantry units, but I put him out there just so he had an option to use his ability on either the organ gun, if Burloxen is focusing on the Iron Drakes, or on the Grudge Throwers. And that worked out pretty good. And you'll see that to the left of him, there's a unit of Longbeards, and in front of that, there's 2 gyrocopters. Now, I chose not to do any vanguarding with the gyrocopters. I put them up there merely to kind of bait anybody who's vanguarding, and then if I didn't get first turn, or even if I did get first turn, I could go and I could swoop in and maybe do some steam shots or even dive bombs if anybody who got too close, and then I could reposition these guys as needed. Do a double flee if I put them in certain positions with any fast-moving cav. So that's really what they're there for. I can harass. I didn't want to. I like the idea of you doing large, the Dwarven Air Force, but I didn't want to try it. I know Anthony had done it himself and with great success previously, but I wanted to try something different, and it just didn't fit with the Iron Drakes. And just something else to be with the Iron Drakes. I know a lot of people subscribe to the idea that you really need 2 organ guns, and I agree. 2 organ guns are fantastic, but I just had to make some concessions somewhere. And I just figured, let me put it in an organ gun. It's going to be much more effective with Burloxen in there. And I felt the Iron Drakes are much more survivable than War Machines. And they can also, they're better in hand-to-hand combat, too. And, one of the things that seems to be also common through is you need 3 combat blocks. You need 3 major blocks with the Dwarves. 2 just doesn't cover enough flanks. So the idea, you can see that the shield beards are kind of, and the shield beards because they're not using great weapons, they're using hand weapons and shield, and I think that means that they're very sticky, they're very tough, and I can charge with them, and they'll be strength 5. Defense-wise, I'll have great advantages, being that they've got weapon and shield, and I'll put some characters in there, and they've got that great reroll panic test within 6 inches, which is nearly everything in the army. So they really have a great enhancement, and I want them to be the center of the army. So in that unit with the Longbeards is my standard bearer Thane, who I believe he's my general, and he's got the banner of Grungy, which is the Master Rune of Grungy, and that gives him a 4+ ward, and every unit within 6 inches has shooting defenses, so they get a 5+ ward versus shooting and versus magic missiles, and that's big. That's pretty much almost the entire army. It includes one of the Grudge Throwers. It includes right now the 2 copters if I don't get first turn and people start chucking shooting at me with artillery and stuff. The organ gun, and both other blocks of units. It won't include, at least as far as I can tell from just looking at this picture, either of the cannons. And that was just happenstance. What am I going to do? I know the cannons are going to be shot at, but there's not much I can do about that. But and I need those guys on a hill, so I put them on a hill. And included also in that unit is the Rune Lord. Now I know a lot of people don't like taking Rune Lords because it's a lot of points for what you get, but I like the idea of the steal a die on a 4+, and I didn't even realize that you can do that with other runes in the game and save some of the points. So that's something I might explore in the future. I always criticized about not bringing the stubborn banner, which could have helped out this army. I will say right now, it didn't come into tremendous play. It did come into play in one particular game, but I was just trying to test something out. I'm not trying to, of course I want to win, but I don't expect I'm going to do exceptionally well at this tournament. I did do better than I thought, but you'll see the battle reports, and I won't give anything away. But I wanted to try something out, and I thought the idea of, look, if I'm going to sit back and I'm going to have kind of a modified gun line type of an army, I wanted to have some protection for anybody else who's heavy shooting, and be able to protect the army and have some defenses, because I unlike my vampire counts and undead legions, I can't heal back any units that have been destroyed, or any infantry that are or that are killed. They're gone. So I wanted to go and do that. So and it helped. And it helped. It was a huge deal, especially in one particular game. So then the next unit that I have over is a unit of warriors, and they have great weapons. It's unfortunate it's only strength 5, but on a charge they'll be strength 6, which is great. In there I have a rune smith, so that they're going to be armor piercing. So I have armor piercing on just about every one of these infantry blocks. And I thought that was pretty good. It was something that as long as the runesmiths are in there, they'll give that ability. And as far as flaming, I have a lot of flaming in this army. I mean, I have flaming on at least one of the cannons. You can see that one of the cannons on the hill has a couple of tokens that I made up, and I put a couple of tokens around this to remind myself: armor piercing, entrenched. If I had the forging rune. So that one that has that little green symbol, I don't want to put a red one because that's usually what I use for wound markers. And that has, and I'm going to make up some little tokens of my own to signify some of these things for myself. But that's got the forging rune, that's entrenched, and it's flaming. So that's going to be the initial barrage against anything that has regen. I have the ability to reroll a misfire die, and I'm entrenched in case that thing gets into combat. I will say that I forgot a lot of that stuff. I forgot +1 strength on the charge. I forgot parry, +1 to parry if you're charged. I forgot a lot of the core rules for my dwarf army, and I apologize to all the dwarf players out there who might not be happy about that. But hey, that's I'm new to it, and hopefully you'll enjoy the battle reports, because they were a lot of fun, at least from my perspective, and I did have fun with them. Certain things I did forget. Entrenched was one of them. Unfortunate. What are you going to do? But I'll certainly pick that stuff up for future games. And then I have a basic cannon, just in case I go up against anything that is like Banner of the World Dragon, for instance. I need to have some non-magical stuff. And I think on the grudge throwers, as far as the grudge throwers are concerned, I don't know. I think they were one grudge thrower had an engineering rune. The rune of burning. So one of the grudge throwers also is burning, and one of them is not. So I wanted to have options. I didn't have anything on the organ gun, naked organ gun, but I wanted to have some options in case, again, I had like a Banner of the World Dragon issue. But I also wanted to have some options so I can shoot at stuff, for instance, that was magical, ethereal, or anything like that. And then I have so that's the list. It's straight up 2,500 points. I have and just some other things that I put in there. The Master Engineer has a runic weapon with swiftness and the rune of the furnace, so he was 2+ versus any flaming, which is something that I figured if there was any flaming units that got in the way, or not flaming, anybody who had the banner of flame, I could get him out there and kind of stick in. And plus, I needed a magic weapon also. I initially had given him the one where you can throw the weapon 12 inches, just in case there was like a spirit host or anything like that. But I kind of figured, if it comes to that, I'll charge him or get something. We'll use one of these other objects that are magical, that have runes on them, and try to focus on that. Beyond that, I have 2 runes of spell breaking, and that I thought would help me in the in the combat, because we're going to do 6 rounds. I figured 2,500 points. Typically there'll be only one level 4. There might be a couple lower levels unless somebody's really going crazy with magic. And there's a good chance that there's 2 really bad spells that I want to remove out there. And if I get lucky, then I can do that. If somebody's got one level 4, I could potentially neutralize half of their spell power, and so that was the theory. I figured 2 runes of spell breaking. It's not over the top. I could have gone obviously much crazier and tried to shut down magic completely, but I'm hoping that with my shooting, I would be able to. I'd have a much better chance to maybe take out the spellcasters before I run out of my ability to defend. And by the time turn 4 or 5 comes around, I'm just gonna take my chances. Hopefully, through attrition, I'll be able to severely ruin somebody's day, and we'll see how this army performs. So tell me what you think, and I'll start posting up battle reports pretty soon, and. We'll see how this turned out. This was a pretty cool one-day tournament, and the best thing about it for me was I was finished early. At one point, I had like about an hour and 25 minutes. I could have probably gotten a cot in the back room and taken a nap, which is just uncharacteristic. I'm usually racing to finish the game with how long it takes to play vampire counts or even undead legions, even more so with undead legions. With dwarves, the games go by fast. Now I understand why at like GTs or major tournaments, dwarf players are getting drunk and getting ripped because they have so much time. They just go and drink, and that's something that I might take advantage of if I hit a GT and I take dwarves with me. So anyway, hope everybody enjoyed this. Have a great day.